On the Freedom Lifestyle podcast today, we're joined with Pauline, who went from being lost, bored, going from multiple jobs to now an international public speaker, an author of her own book, and empowering entrepreneurs to become a confident speaker.
By the end of this episode, you will see that confidence does not start externally. You will unlock the secrets to owning the room and become a happier, more assured version of yourself.
And for us to keep interviewing inspiring guests like Pauline, all we ask is for a cheeky subscribe.
And before we begin, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Let's expand what's possible together. Oh, Pauline, thank you so much for being on the Freedom Lifestyle podcast. One question we always like to ask our guests, just to get the viewer at home really hooked into why they should watch this episode. So if someone at home listening right now is looking to create more freedom in their life, why does this conversation matter for them?
It'll make a freedom life way much easier to reach than they think about now. So I will just give them like really easy things they can do immediately to start a life based on freedom.
Powerful.
There we go.
There we go.
I love that. I love that. So obviously, I know we know a bit about yourself. Obviously, it's so amazing meeting you, and obviously with your journey. Obviously, you went from a big transition from being in like more of like the 9-to-5 world to like taking that risk. And I guess I'm curious in terms of a lot of people are struggling to find their purpose and actually just settling. What was it for you? Like, what was the big shift, the big breakthrough that was like for you to be like, right, enough is enough. I need to go do something different.
I always hear people telling about their purpose. And I think like if you give yourself the task to find your purpose, it's a big responsibility because it's a big thing. You find your purpose. And for me, it wasn't like that. I just did what makes me happy. So I was just looking at my life and thinking like this is the life I get. How can I make it meaningful? How can I make it like worth living? So when I was at my previous jobs, because I had a few jobs, I had a few educations because I was always bored out very easily. I was just at some point I felt the urge like this is not making me happy anymore. And it's kind of like not burned out, but bored out. So I was like, yeah, so bored out. Like, oh, please, can someone save me from this life? And then I realized I can give myself permission. That's all I need. So I just then found something new, what makes me excited. And then I went for it. And when I was testing it, I just enjoy it. And at some point I was like, now I kind of figure it out. I don't like it anymore. What's next? So it wasn't like a big thing, like I need to find my purpose. It was more like, how can I make most out of this life? And where will life bring me if I go for it?
It's funny, actually. I like that bored out. I remember being at a job, Googling, can you die from boredom?
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is not normal how bored I am. I'm like falling asleep at my desk. Yeah. So I can really resonate with that. So what was the moment for you then that you had that realization, like, if I don't change now, like if I don't make this change, then nothing really in my life is going to change. And what did that shift change?
Well, the thing is, I always had like this big vision, like at some day in my life, I will have my own company, I will do what I love. But at the beginning, I thought I'm way too young to start my own company. So that's why I was just trying out jobs, actually. I was just like going for a job I really liked. Then I was in the job, working 9 to 5, getting really bored. And then I realized I need to move. And at some point, I was like, there must be something which makes me happy for the long term, not only for the short term. And then I looked at all the things I've done. So like the education I did, the jobs I had, and I was looking like, is there a connection between everything? What's coming back in every job, even when it's not my task? And then I came out like by empowering people and helping them with presenting themselves. So also on stage, but also in real life. How do you do like a difficult meeting and everything? And I was like, maybe this is something. But I still was doubting myself because I was like, I'm still too young. It's not the time. And then at some point, one of my colleagues, he had like a public speaking course. And at the end, she came back to me and she was like, I love this course, but to be honest with you, if you would given it, I would have learned way more and I would also have more fun. And I was like, this is something. So I wrote down a plan, like one day I will have my own company in public speaking. I will be a public speaker and everything. And then I put it on the shelf. I was like, okay, not today. We'll see how it works. So, and then I ended up quitting that job, started a new job again, which was in March 2020. And I was like working at a job, and at some point COVID came. So I was 2 weeks in, and then COVID came. And then the owner of this company, he was like, this is going to take a while. So, and you're still in your testing time. So we're going to fire you. You can come back when times are better, but for now we can't pay you anymore if this is going to take a really long time. So, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting at home. No one was hiring. And I was like, I need to do something. So first I tried for another job, and then I got like rejected. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? And then I realized that, maybe I can use this as an opportunity to do what I really want to do. And even when things are done working out, I can still tell people like, but it was COVID, so of course it didn't work out, and then I could try again. So I just started like owning this particular expertise, so owning like the public speaking area. And I tell people like, I'm a public speaking coach, I can help you with it. I start like creating content on LinkedIn and everything. And then at some point the ball starts rolling, and I get like clients on and on and on. And now we're 6 years in. So that's amazing. So it wasn't like a particular, like a very heavy moment. It was more that life forced me to really step in on my dreams and not like postponing it, like giving myself excuses. So it was kind of like confronting me with my own excuses. Like, you're not too young. It's not too early. Just go and see what happens. And well, I'm in that flow since then.
I think lockdown did that for a lot of people. It made them realize
time to think.
Yeah, and also like, right, are you going to start that thing now that you've been saying you want to do, but you don't have time? Now you've got time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We actually just had an interview before this with Ben, and that was episode 4 of season 2 of the podcast. And it seems to be a common theme of just having that time to think. And I think that's what lockdown certainly did for me. I know you shifted, starting to go into the gym and stuff like that. And obviously for you, you had a massive shift during lockdown as well. So it's really interesting that a lot of people had that shift. Obviously for yourself now, like, for the last 6 years, you've been doing public speaking. So you've gone from like the 9-to-5 job hopping, you were bored. I like what you said, you were bored. I think a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people listening to this may be bored. And then you shifted into public speaking. And now you've got your book, you're doing talks, international talks, which is so amazing. For me, the word that comes to that is confidence. And I think confidence is an area that a lot of people, entrepreneurial, but even just in general, in general life, a lot of people struggle with confidence. Have you got a bit of a process or formula that you help clients with when it comes to, because you've got not everybody's going to go and do public speaking. However, the fundamentals of building the confidence to go and public speak, is going to be the same fundamentals for someone to just grow their confidence to go to a networking event, or to, if they're dating, to approach the fundamentals. So I guess I'm curious of all your skills and knowledge in the public speaking world. For someone listening to this that wants to grow their confidence, what advice from your experience are you able to give them? Do you have like a step-by-step formula that you use? I'm curious.
Well, I love this question. And I also tell people, like, when I introduce myself, I'm into public speaking, and then they think, it's about being on stage and everything, but it's way broader than that. So my motto is own the room. And it's not only like owning the room when you're on stage. It's like owning the room in every area of your life. So owning the bedroom, owning your meeting room, owning the boardroom. Because when you feel very confident, you will step up. You want to be seen. Because you've got something to offer. And I think that's something a lot of people forget, that they have something to offer. They have, like, your opinion matters. Share it with the people because they need it probably. And also ask the questions which are in your head, because if you've got a question, probably more people have this question too. And what I love about confidence, so confidence comes from trusting yourself. If you trust yourself, then you will gain confidence because you're like, I can trust myself, so I'm going to show up. And it starts by doing things you've never done. So just try and see if you can trust yourself. So do something, and it can be like a small thing. So for some people, they found it like already a bit scary to have a coffee by themselves. Just sit in a restaurant or in a coffee shop and just sitting there and being there all by yourself, but just try it once, because when you try it and you see it works out, you will do it again, because you have you gain this confidence. And that's something very important. And another part which is very important, like by gaining confidence, is also your body language. So how are you standing? How are you sitting? If your shoulders are way more narrow and you make yourself way smaller than it needs to be, well, you can hear it at my voice immediately, like it's changing. So put on your shoulders straight. Look into the world. Believe that you've got something to offer. Yes, but do you feel the change in your mindset? So that's a funny thing. Yeah, it's a shift. You can do a lot of mindset work, but you also need to take care of your body too. So put on your great posture, just standing there, both feet on the ground. I always say both feet on the ground, because then you keep grounded. And then you can just look into the world and say things like, oh, I've got something to offer. And don't make it as hard. So some people are trying to prove themselves that they're not worthy, that they have nothing to offer. But think about the question like, what can I offer? And if you don't know, just ask the people around you, like, what do you value the most in me? You can ask your family, your friends, your co-workers, if you're still an employee. So think about it, and ask people around it, and see what they give back to you, and then use it in your advantage. Like think like, this is who I am, so I can show up. I deserve to be owning the room and everything. And so also when you're, for example, at a networking event, it can be scary for sure. I always use the sentence, the 20 seconds of courage thing. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's from the movie We Bought a Zoo, and then it's about a family and they're buying a zoo, and then the girl has to go to a new school, and she's like very scared. She's very nervous, and then her dad tells her like, you just need 20 seconds of courage. So you can just count in your head from 1 to 20, and when you're counting, you just walk to someone, and in that 20 seconds you just say hi, and then you have to say hi already. And then you just can say like, hi, how are you? And that's the only thing you do. And then the other person, you can trust like the other one, and no one is there to bring you down. They just want to meet you too. And they're also probably a bit nervous at this meeting event. So just be there and say, hi, how are you? And then you have a chat. And then based from that, well, that's the great thing about having a chat. It's like a 2-person job. So you don't have to be like taking the whole responsibility in there. You just can say, hi, how are you? The other one can answer. And then you start a conversation. And then, well, from that point on, you can just go on. So I think that's a good way to start.
I love that. And I think it's easy for people watching this to see you and see you very confident and be like, okay, well, it's easy for her. Was there a moment in your life where you weren't this confident? And if so, what did that teach you about confidence?
Well, I for sure wasn't. So my grandparents, they were very worried about me when I was way younger. So my mom recently told me, like, when it was your first day at school, your grandma was calling me like, how did Pauline did at school? Because she's always so shy. So I wasn't like that talkative around that time. I remember that I always kind of mistrusted people. So I was like, who are you? What do you want from me? So I was like a bit like, curious, but also in a more negative way. So, but at some point, I think it's a process of a lot of time. Because I remember when I was at my at like the first school you go to, like, what's it called, primary school. When I go to primary school, I was like, I didn't belong to any groups, and I think that also, well, it was painful at one side, but it also gave me a lot of confidence, because I realized like, I don't need you. At first, it was painful because I didn't belong to any groups, and I was like the odd. But at some point, I realized like, but I can still have fun. It can still be nice, even if people don't like, if they don't like you. And I think that's how I changed the narrative. So I was like, okay, you don't like me. Well, then you don't like me. So I also grew up in a very strict religious family. And there were always people telling me like, you have to do this, you have to do this. Otherwise you don't belong to the group and everything. And I was like, I don't want to hand in my own opinions and everything to belong to your view, your point of view. So I realized when I was younger, I always had like this deep urge to escape that part and just be with myself and meeting like new people we are more open-minded. And I think because of that urge, I went on and on and on. So I didn't think about, maybe it's not possible. Because I saw other people doing it. So I was like, it is possible. If they can do it, I can do it too. And then I just went on and on and on. So I didn't give the doubts that much of space. So I just let them be like, oh, of course I've got doubts. Of course I'm scared. But then I was like, maybe I can prove them wrong. So I was like, acknowledging it. So like, okay, I have this and it's okay. And then I was like, let's give it a try. See if they're right. And then most of the time, my doubts and my limited beliefs, they weren't true because I was testing them in real life. And I think that's also an important thing to do. If you believe something, test it in real life. See if it's true. And then also give yourself the opportunity to be wrong in your minds and that the positive things are true.
I'm really curious. Obviously, this podcast is called Freedom Lifestyle. Everyone listening to this podcast wants to level up in some area of freedom, essentially, for them, whether that's financial, health, relationships, confidence, mental freedom. I guess my question to you is, how has your version of freedom shifted over the years?
I don't know if it changed that much but I think the level of freedom I have right now, that changed a lot. So I always had this thing about freedom, like doing what I want, how I want it, and when I want it, with whom I want it. And I also believe when I'm doing the things I love, I can also be of service of the world. But I remembered, if you think about this term, like having like 100% reached of this goal, like 100% reached this way of freedom, when I was at my previous job, when I was like still working for in an organization, I would like have it maybe for 5%. And now I'm having it for 80%. So my definition of freedom is still the same, like doing what I want, when I want it and everything. But now the percentage of doing it is way more. Well, sometimes I meet people that are like, oh, freedom. I want to have this big car. I want to have this house. I want to have this amount of money on my bank account. And I also meet a lot of people right now when they reached it and they are like, why do I feel so unhappy? Why do I feel so empty? Why is my life like so boring? And I'm like, well, maybe you chased the wrong things. And I always think about this book about the second mountain. I don't know if you heard about it, but they say, like when you're younger, you chase the first mountain, which is like the car, the house, the stability of a job and everything. And once you reach that mountain, you're like, oh no, is this how it feels? I thought this was it, but now I'm there. It doesn't feel like that. And then you go for the second mountain, which is like connection, a meaningful life. Treat others in the way you want to be treated. So it's adding way more value to the world, to others, but also to yourself.
Yeah, and in terms of like freedom, I guess, say someone's really struggling to almost have that freedom of speech, confidence. Your book's called like Own the Room.
Love that.
For someone listening who's struggling to get started, what are some really easy tips you could give them to start owning the room?
I love it. Well, the first thing I would say, like, change your body posture. Because it's so easy. You just put on a timer 3 times a day. When the timer goes off, think about, how was I sitting? How was I standing for the last 2-3 hours? And then change it. So just sit in your chair, put your back to like really owning the chair, And then also standing in a way like, I'm here, so I'm really here. So that's the one thing I would say. That's the first advice I would give. The second one I would say, like, look at your mind, look in your mind. How are you talking to yourself? Because mostly the way you talk to yourself is also the way you talk to others. So if you're very critical in yourself, you will also look at others and think like, you're missing this and you're missing that. And I don't like this about you. But if you think positive about yourself, like, what do you have? What are you grateful for? And you can also look at other people. So I recently heard this quote like, happy people encourage, successful people support, and attractive people compliment, and those who have nothing to offer will bring you down. And I love that, because I think that's also, if you start like talking positive about yourself, you will also start talking positive to others, and the world will change for sure. And then I will also say, like, I believe that for me now, it's easy to own the room because I do what I love. So find something you love and do it. So find the joy in it and don't make it too big. So for me, it was when I I was still I was still an employee. I was just reading books, which gives me a lot of courage. And that's one step you can do, like read a book, listen to a podcast. Well, people are already listening to the Freedom podcast, which is a great first step. And also be very clear about what you want. So write it down, like what do you really want and how do you want to feel? And also be that person already. So if you want to have like a very nice body, then start working out, eat healthy. But if you want to travel more, you can also say like, okay, well, how can I make it already happen in the next 3 months? Maybe you're not going to stay like in Tulum for a month, but you can still maybe go out for the weekend and do something nice and then experience already how it is to have the freedom to do what you want. So I would definitely say that. And for when I say owning the room, I would also say like, believe that you have something to offer, believe that you have a voice, use it. If someone would thought like, oh no, for you better not talk, they wouldn't have give you a voice. So you have a voice, use it, and use it in for good. Because I also believe when you create like positive things, when you say positive things, you also other people will also take it on, and then you will have like a positive influence. You're using everything you have for the best you can offer. Yeah.
Now this could get quite deep. I'm curious of your take of the difference between owning your external world and owning your internal world.
Well, first you need to own your internal world before you can own your external world. So some people think like, oh, owning the room, it's about power. It's like who has the most power. But that's not it. Owning the room is about safety. So can you be safe for yourself? And when you are safe for yourself, others feel safe with you too. So I always give this example, like, and I will use my voice because some people are listening to it probably and not watching it. If I was like this, hello, I'm talking about owning the room, and I see you reacting immediately because I don't trust myself. What happens with you? You don't trust you don't trust me too. So the first thing when I trust myself, and trusting myself starts with safety. So how do I talk about myself? What do I believe? But also like doing like some internal soul searching. So I journal a lot about myself, like what's holding me back? Is it true? Do I really want to believe this? And everything. So that's about internal safety, internal owning the room. And then based on that, because I trust myself, you will trust me too. Because we're always mirroring each other. So and if you don't act up confident, people will think like, oh, okay, I can trust you because you don't trust yourself. So it will definitely start with that. So and when your internal world is right or is in balance, because I also have like negative things. There are a lot of things I can do, and there are a few things I can do, and I just focus on the things I can do, and the rest it's for someone else who probably enjoys doing it. And when I'm like really in touch with my soul and what I want, it's also very easy to me to be there for others, and then my external world shows up too. So first inside job, then the outside job.
I love that. And like, you know, as you've shared, life is a journey, right? And there's different chapters of life. And I think one thing I've struggled with is we go through phases, right? Especially as women. Sometimes in the month you feel so confident and everything you share will work. Mm-hmm. What do we do when we're doing the body language? You know, we're doing the journaling, we're doing the internal stuff, but we still don't feel confident. I'm not about faking it till you make it. I'd rather be it till you become it. Mm-hmm. But like, say someone is really in like a rut right now of feeling bad in themselves. Obviously, we want to start to lift them up. What can they do?
I think there are a lot of ways. Well, first thing I want to say, if someone is listening and recognizes like I feel so bad at the moment, I also believe that there's an emotion which needs to be expressed in the moment. So when I feel bad, I sit with it or I move with it. Sometimes when I sit with it, I just let it be. So I meditate on it, like, what is it what I'm feeling? And then sometimes it's like, I'm so sad. I don't know where it comes from. And then I think maybe it's old sadness. Maybe it's like from my childhood or something. And then I just let it be, because I also, when I look back at my life, when I was younger, I feel a lot, but there was no space to express those emotions. So I always know like there's still a lot of emotions who needs to be expressed. So I give it that space, and sometimes I give it a sound. So that can also help. Like, and this sounds a bit woohoo, but so when you just sit with it and you think about the feeling you're feeling, and you think about what sound does it make, and you make the sound, it's so liberating to let it out, to give it a sound. And maybe it's like a really weird sound, it's like, whoa, and that's totally fine. Just do it. You can do it on your own. No one is judging you. So it's only between you, and you can let it out. You can dance it out or like move it out. So some people are like, I can't dance. Then move it out. You can move because, well, I probably think you can move. And so you can just put on a song, maybe a sad song, and then just move with it, because emotion is like energy emotion. So, and if you start like moving with it, it will also change. And sometimes you first need to accept it before you can change it. And especially when you're in a bad mood, I also believe don't take everything from yourself, because if you have to if you need to bring yourself up all the time, also find people you can easily connect with. And if you feel really sad, you can just send them a text like, oh, I feel so sad. And recently I've read a research about like if you give like a friend who's feeling bad 8 minutes, they will also feel like better, because in this 8 minutes there will be like a real connection. So sometimes you can also ask a friend like, do you have 8 minutes for me? And then you can just share your story and say like, oh, this is bringing me down and I feel like this and this. And when you feel hurt, you will immediately start feeling a relief. And I also believe like when you feel an emotion, just feel it, sit with it, and at some point realize, okay, I felt it enough, I'm going on. And then you can go to the next emotion and feel better. So I had like a bad day. I think it was a couple of days ago. I woke up in the morning and I felt so sad. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I didn't know. I had no clue. So I meditated on it. I wrote on it. And then I just let it be. So I was like, maybe this day is not a happy day. Well, then it is. It is what it is. And then at some point, I was like, I was in Mexico. So I rented a bike and I just started cycling around on the roads. And then at some point I was like, ooh, I feel happy again. But so sometimes you just need to let it be and see what's happened next. And especially when you're, as a woman, when you're in your cycle, it's also part of being like a woman. So sometimes you feel happy and you can conquer the world, and at some days you can't, which is okay. And if you have a bad day, I hope you find like one moment during the day you feel like, oh, I'm still happy to be alive.
I'm curious, like you said earlier, Ellie, like for anyone watching this or even listening, you can tell how confident you are. I mean, you know, English isn't even your first language, right? So that's impressive. Like some people that are English can't even speak or do a podcast. We
still haven't learned Spanish after living in Spain for many years.
We got Spanish to learn.
It's impressive.
So I guess my question to you is, because this might hopefully will relate to the listeners, what was your internal battle that you had to public speak? And what have you, that question number one, and then question number two is, what have you noticed when you've coached your clients or helped your clients? What have you seen as a common theme of a belief or a way that you said earlier, you'll write down like what's holding you back. What was holding you back, and what have you seen that holds most people back?
The feeling of not being good enough. And I see that a lot, and you see it in like different ways. So some people say, I'm so nervous when I need to be public speaking. I'm so nervous when I need to enter this networking event. I'm so nervous when I have this chat with my boss, if you're still working for a boss. And I think when you narrow it down, so I always ask these people like, but what if people see that you're nervous on stage? What happens then? And then they tell me something, and then I ask them, what happens then? What happens then? What happens then? So I ask them like maybe seven times, like what happens after that? And at the end, you will find like a very deep fear of something. And most of the time, it's like the fear of not being enough. So I've not done enough, or they will see that I don't know enough. They will see that I'm not valuable enough. I don't deserve this spot. I don't deserve to be seen. So I think that's a very deep fear. And so what I do, I go back with them to when was the first moment when you didn't feel enough? And then most of the time I go back to their childhood. Like they had a conversation with one of their parents. They have very like high expectations from them. Or maybe you were bullied at school or something else. And then we go back to that moment and I do the visualization like, imagine you're standing next to your 4-year-old who's not feeling enough. What do you want to say? And then most of the time they want to say like, you are enough, you more than enough, you're so lovable. And I always tell them like, say those things to you a lot. So I always think about like in your head, you have all those different voices and you can choose to which one you want to listen. And I have like a huge inner critic. So I had to work on that a lot. So now I also have like my inner cheerleader. So my inner critic is always like beating it up. Like, no, you can do better. And now what are you saying? And hear yourself. But my inner cheerleader, she's like, go girl, look at you. So she's like so supportive. And when I think about her, I also feel it right now. Yeah. I go for it. So I was also, this is like my first podcast in English ever. Wow. So yeah. So I was like, and I was cycling to this part because you can cycle into Loom very easily for the people who don't know to Loom. And I was like, oh, this is the first time I'm going to do this. And then I was like, I will manage. So my inner cheerleader, she was like, go girl, do it. And my inner critic, so it's like far in the back of my head. So I can't hear it. So I just put it like far in the back of my head. And then I started listening to my inner cheerleader. And during the years, so at the beginning, my inner critic was like screaming a lot. And then I always think like the voice you listen the most to becomes like the loudest. So I had to say to my inner cheerleader a lot like, come on, say the things to me, say nice things to me. I want to listen to you. So, and then for now, it's way easier for me to listen to my inner cheerleader than it was back then because I listened to it a lot. So for the listeners, just see like you have this inner critic, you have this inner cheerleader, give both of them a name. So give your inner critic a name, give your inner cheerleader a name. And then you can just say the inner dialogue in your head like, so my inner critic is Truus, which is a very typical Dutch name. But my inner cheerleader, her name is Pauline, just my name. I would just say, hey, Pauline, what are you? And then she's like, yeah, I'm here. Let's go. Can't wait. So she's like very supportive.
That was fab. And I love that exercise of, we did it last night, obviously all of us at a masterclass together and it was really fun. And it makes it more lighthearted and not so serious, which I think is really needed.
Yeah.
So a question for you about the process of writing your book, because when we spoke to Ben in the last conversation, he said that writing for him is almost like his therapy. He's talking to his younger self, his future self, his present self. So I'm curious, when you wrote your book, what was like your biggest lesson that you almost like taught yourself?
Oh, I love that question. Well, I have to be honest about this book, because the thing is, I already had this idea in mind for a really long time. So I want to write a book. It's about owning the room and everything. And then I get like this contract with the publisher, but I still needed to write like everything. And I had like 6 months to write it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this every Monday morning. Then I will wake up, make a coffee, sit on my very pretty desk, and then I will write my book. But I'm like this kind of person who doesn't do that well if there's not enough pressure. So I was like, for the first 4 months, I was like, oh yeah, Monday morning, no, I'm going to have coffee with my friends, not working on my book. And then I had like 2 months left. And I was like, oh my God, girl, they're waiting for your book. You need to write it. And then I just locked myself in and I just start like writing. And I think, so I don't know if you have, the biggest lesson for me was like, well, when the timing is right, things will follow. So that's because this book was in my head for a really long time, but when I started like taking it seriously, it went really quickly. So that was amazing. And the biggest lesson is also like the things who are for me like very common, like of course everyone knows this, is most of the time it isn't what everyone knows. So it's also maybe also for the listeners some nice to know like the things you probably know are exceptional for someone else. Yeah. So share them and also connect with like people who aren't in your bubble. So go out of your bubble, find people with like different beliefs and everything, so that you can see what you can add with the things you know and the experience you have.
And I guess in terms of for you, with all what you've gained now going on your journey, if you were to go back to the start of your entrepreneurship journey, when you went from taking that risk, with everything you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self that can really benefit the listeners?
It's all gonna work out. So I worried so much at the beginning about money, about clients, about am I doing it right? And I was always like, oh, you need to work every day, every minute of the day, because you need, that's also something people tell you, like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you must be so busy. And I was like, okay, I need to look very busy. But then at some point, so I want to say to her, like, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to work out at the best timing possible. And it's going to even better than you can even imagine at this moment. And I also say, like, don't take it too seriously. Because I thought at the beginning, I was like, so stick to the plan and everything. But I believe you need to leave some room for magic and also to find a joy in everyday life. Yeah. So, of course, you need a plan and stick a bit to the plan, let's say for 70%. But then the last 30%, let's just be like growing, and well, the magic can then be there because you left some space for it.
I love that. Leave space for the magic. And I guess the magic is finding yourself, discovering who you are, owning it, being confident. Because this is the thing, if you're working all the time, if you're constantly hustling, there's no time to work on how you're standing or how you're feeling internally. And like you said, it all starts from within. So I know everybody who's watched this, it's even given me like loads of light bulb moments watching this and things that we can all go and implement right now. I just want to leave them with one more thing. So let's say you're in a situation and you very quickly need to find that confidence from within. You've done the body posture, you've done the internal work. Have you got like a mantra you could say in your head and then that would get them in that state really quickly?
Oh, I've got a song. I've got a lot of songs. So, well, like one of my favorite songs, but it sounds very specific, is like Everyone is Gay from The Great Big World. It's a very happy song. I listened to this when I was 16 with my sister, and every time I turn it on, I'm like, woohoo, I'm going for it. Yeah. And there's also another song, and I listened to it a lot when it was March 2020. It's about sleepwalking. I'm sleepwalking. And then they say like, it's also about good things happening. So I love that a lot. And I have this new thing I found out. You have this like manifestation songs about, I forgot her name, but maybe we can put it like in the description. No, it wasn't. It's about like, it's more like, maybe we can share it like in the notes. Yeah. I think that's a good thing to do. So I dance a lot. Because why be moody when you can shake your booty? Hey. So yes. So I think that's an amazing thing to do. So if you feel like really sad, just shake your booty and you will immediately feel like it's gonna change your mood.
I love that. I think my biggest lesson from that then is just take the seriousness out of life. Yeah. Like just have fun. I love that. Can you say that to me next time I'm moody?
Yeah.
Shake your booty.
Yeah. That's so fun. I love that. What amazing energy you've brought to this conversation. I know everyone listening to this, like they're gonna want to get connected to you. And something really excited as well is obviously, you know, we're going to be running up an exclusive Q&A together. So because this is, me and Ellie always say, like, this podcast, our intention is always to ask questions to make sure that we benefit everyone listening. But obviously, you know, we're the ones that are asking the questions at the end of the day. So I'm sure the listeners may have something they really want to ask you. And that's where the Q&A is going to come in. So join us for the Q&A completely for free. Get connected with her because she's amazing. And, you know, if you want to level up your confidence, your public speaking, and ultimately own the room, then we'll see you on the Q&A. Obviously, you can join the community for free below as well. And we're just extremely grateful literally met you last night.
This is a spooky story, actually. Let's just share about how we met, because I think there's a lesson in that as well. So,
can I start from the beginning?
Yes, go for it.
The thing is, I arrived yesterday evening in Tulum, and I was sitting on my own on a terrace, and there I was having dinner, and there was this woman next to me, and she was like doing things on her tablets, and I was like, it looks interesting. And then I looked at her and she looked back, and then she was like, I ordered like a margarita, but it's like 2 for the price of 1. Do you want one? And then we started like chatting with each other, and she was like, I'm giving a workshop next door. Do you want to be there? And that's why you need to leave some room for magic, because I had the time. I was like, oh, I have nothing to do, so let's go to your workshop. And then I went to the workshop, and there
we met. Yeah, like if it wasn't for that workshop, we wouldn't have met, we wouldn't have said about the podcast, and we wouldn't be here right now, and you wouldn't be sharing your message.
It's so true. And also another message to you in that lesson is speak to strangers. You know, like
confidence.
Have
to
the
do it.
confidence, because like, you know, we're out in Tulum, me and Ellie, we've been running Coach Tulum, which has been for the coaching masters, which has led us on to meet so many amazing people. And we even said to ourselves, and actually this is a big lesson for us, even though we network and we speak to loads of people, because we come to Mexico with a mission to network, you know, to run a, you know, an event co-working space out here, it almost made us in a great way network even more.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you don't have this, because when we lived in Bali for like 3 months and we didn't connect and network with as many people as we should have. And I think that's a big lesson for everyone listening to this podcast, is speak to everyone. There's a question I always ask myself is, why am I next to you? Why am I with you? Why are you in the taxi? Why are you in the sauna with me? Why are you sat next to me in a restaurant? You know? And that has now led on to this podcast happening. And the funny thing, actually, I said to Ellie, because we're actually filming Caris later on, obviously, who introduced us to you, which is just amazing. Obviously, we did three podcasts today. And I said to Ellie, how are we going to fit all this in? 2 of my clients that I work with one-to-one, they both messaged me saying if they can reschedule for next week. I said to Ellie, I went, this was meant to be. Like,
And I just left room for magic.
yes.
So that's why I'm able to be here.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a very fortunate position, but recently I've started leaving space for magic and I'm really enjoying the magic. And it's leading on to more magic.
Yeah.
So it's not always about the to-do list.
A lot of magic. Is there any final message that you want to share to the listeners before we wrap this one up?
Well, let's have some fun. Don't take it too seriously. Just go for it. You see, like, look at your life and think about today, how can I do something that brings me joy? And then do it. So sometimes for me, it's just drinking like a really good cup of coffee, but it can also be like put on your favorite song and dance. So how can you make today like a very great day?
Thank you so much. Hasta luego. And we'll see you on the Q&A. Woo!